Hello my friends and viewers, today we are going to speak about the importance of Lend-Lease, which had allowed Soviet Union to push Germans back during World War II and essentially had allowed Allies to win the war. And one of the examples of this Lend-Lease is this Valentine Mk.IX tank in the Soviet WWII. It's the last modification of a Valentine tank which had followed a pretty outdated conception of infantry tank. And by infantry tank it was meant that it was supposed to follow the troops, not move ahead of them to break the defenses, but rather along with them to suppress enemy infantry and provide cover for friendly troops. However, due to the first Valentine being ridiculously outgunned when compared to German counterparts, the Valentine Mk.IX was fitted with a 57mm cannon, and as you can see, it took so much place in its small two-man turret that there was no space left for machine guns. On its BR of 3.0, Valentine Mk.IX offers relatively good armor, a ridiculously underpowered engine which limits your speed, and a pretty good gun with high penetration, relatively high penetration for its BR, and excellent fire rate. However, one extremely noticeable, extremely bad downside is that you have only 3 crew members, and 2 of them are placed in the turret, meaning that if you get penetrated into the turret, the game is over for you, for your tank at least. As you can see, the gun is enough to kill enemies of his BR. And armor actually provides decent protection from all angles, but especially from the front, because your armor is, if I recall correctly, it is 60mm thick from all the sides, but the frontal plate is angled, which allows it to bounce off enemy shells easier. However, some enemies can actually kill you, like the Germans with their good cannons. I use naval mines on that Soviet Catalina because it's a small life hack. They weight, you can take 4 of them just like you can take 4 1,000 pound bombs on Catalina. However, the naval mines have almost twice as much explosives worth in TNT than the bombs of the same weight, allowing you to kill enemy tanks easier and also to bomb out more enemy bases if you are playing ARB. However, playing ARB on given this Catalina's BR is like masturbation. You are going to take out many actions and spend a lot of time without much result. So we actually destroyed Panzer IV-J with our naval mine. And now I'm going to say a few words about T-126. Valentine wasn't wasn't the only tank which was lend-leased to the Soviet Union, and it certainly wasn't the best. The best tanks lend-leased to the Soviet Union were Churchill heavy tanks and Sherman Fireflies with 16-pound cannons or 76 millimeter. What can be said about Lend-Lease in general? Before the second front in Normandy was opened by the Allies, the Soviet troops had called the canned meat Lend-Lease by the USA to the Soviet Union, the second front, because it's around 60% of canned meat eaten by the Soviet troops during the World War II was of American origin, and more than that, more than half of oil, machine oil and petrol and the diesel fuel used by the Soviet army was of American origin too. So when Russians say they could have won the war without Ukrainians or without Lend-Lease, they are shamelessly lying. What about T-126? In 1942 there was a competition for the new light tank for the Soviet army to replace the outdated T-26, and as a result T-126 was developed. It was, as you can see, it was a sort of small T-34, if one can call it this name. It incorporated several design features from the new Soviet tanks like T-34. However, it was smaller since it was a light tank, which hadn't stopped it from weighing 18 tons, which was 1 ton more than Valentine Mk.IX, for example, which was classified as a medium tank by both the British Army and Soviet Army. It had around 60 millimeters of 50 or 60, I can't recall correctly, millimeters of angled armor, which was more than enough for a light tank, and was comparable to the armor of T-34, while its main ornament consisted of a 45 25K cannon, the legendary Сорокопятка anti-tank cannon. However, it was too weak for its time, and the T-126 was considered too expensive for a light tank, so it lost competition to the more easier to manufacture and lighter T-50. Eventually, the Soviet army came to conclusion that the era of light tanks was over, and T-50 was phased out of production too. However, in-game the ornament of T-50 is much weaker than that of T-126. As you can see, it can withstand many enemy hits. I'm going to spoiler a bit. I had killed 10 enemies overall in that battle, and I'm going to bomb out 2 enemies on Yak 2 Cub, and then kill another 2 ones on Su 122. Yes, it's quite boring, so I'm going to skip it. Well, revenge. Oh, and the last enemy is going to die to the heat warhead RBS 82 missile from my E1 153 Chaika. I had managed to kill that Wilbur with a direct hit to its turret. Thank you for watching, and Slava Ukraini!